and welcome to At Home today. We're so glad you dropped in. Today we're going to talk about role models. And we're also going to honor some guys who were really good role models. Some of our presidents, you know, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, these guys, they were role models. You could tell your kids, you know, look what they did with their lives. It's a sad state that we live in now where we don't have those politicians, and not just politicians, others, that normally we would be able to say, look up to them, sports figures and you know, police and whatever. And you can't do it anymore because corruption seems to have come in every phase of life. And today we're going to honor those guys because we're going to make cherry recipes today. But let me share these couple of letters with you. The first one says, I love you and your show, Arlene. While the walls of our land keep falling down, you are my promise that we still have the best, God's wonderful love. That's from Kathleen in Mississippi. You're right, Kathleen. The other one says, hello, I enjoy your program very much. It helps me keep my values about our life and family and love in spite of a world of confusion. Think of that, a world of confusion. In spite of all of that, God allows us to help to keep her focused on what's really important. And I have a little shot of something that's really important because these are some precious treasures to me. These are my great nieces and nephews who live close by. They're as sweet as they can be. These were the cards that they were sent out for Christmas, and we just love them to death. But you know what? I realize I'm a role model to these kids because my life touches them. Their parents are role models to them. Their teachers are. Let me ask you the question today. Who are you a role model for? You say, there's nobody, young people around me. I'm not a role model. You are a role model to adults as well as children. And you know what? We want to have an effect on their lives. My great nieces and nephews, the people I bump into at the supermarket or wherever, we want to leave a lasting impression for godliness and for good, not for nastiness. So today we're going to talk and we're going to make some of the favorite cherry recipes of all time. We'll be back in just a minute, but first, here's today's at-home hint. Here's today's at-home hint. Aluminum pots discolor when foods containing wine, egg yolks, vinegar, or lemon are cooked in them. It's always better to use glass or stainless pots in baking dishes.
If you have an at-home hint, a favorite recipe, or just a friendly greeting you'd like to share, we'd like to hear from you. Post it in the comments of this video or visit our Facebook page.
Well, if you've just joined us, you're here right on time because we're just getting started to make some favorite cherry recipes in honor of our presidents. And we're going to make a cherry pie, a cherry dessert, and I'm going to start with chocolate-covered cherry cookies that you put the icing on before you put them in the oven. Oh boy, okay. To get started, I've got about a half a cup of sweetened condensed milk that I put into this little pan because we want that to get warm. That's going to be part of the icing. And we're going to add about a cup of chocolate chips to that. And that's just going to stay on low until it melts down. Then we're going to add something else, okay? But we're going to start to assemble. First of all, in a mixing bowl, we're going to add some flour, which is 1.5 cups of flour. And I'm just putting it through this little strainer because this kind of takes any lumps and bumps that might be in there. We're just going to put it through there real quickly. Okay, that and some cocoa. We have 1/2 cup of unsweetened cocoa, just cocoa powder. And what you want to do is just tap this. You say, Arlene, why do you have those gloves on? Well, because we're going to be rolling dough, and I don't want the dough all over my fingers and fingernails and everything else. So that's the reason why. And this is just to keep this from, this has all been pre-sifted anyway. The flour mostly that we use now is pre-sifted, but this just helps it to be a smoother batter, okay? So we're pushing it through our little mesh here. And see, we probably aren't going to get many problems. These only bake for about 10 minutes, which is nice. Makes about, see what you have in the bottom? That's what you don't want to have. That's why you mash it. And if it doesn't work, then you, guess what? You just put it aside like I'm going to do with this, all right? Now, to this, we're going to put some butter. let's see, combine our butter, softened butter, 1/2 cup softened butter. Looks like we have it melted. Guess we'll have to use it. Okay, that should really just be softened and not melted, okay? And we're gonna add some salt, a little bit of salt, about 1/4 of a teaspoon, baking powder, baking soda, both of those in at one time, just like that. And let's see, we're gonna use the mixer and beat this up a little bit. Well, not literally, but we're going to just mix this together. There we go. All right, and then we're going to add our sugar, I'm sorry, our egg, 1 egg, and some vanilla, which is about 1 teaspoon. Just like that. And again, I stress, use the good vanilla, okay? Don't buy the imitation. We're gonna mix that up, beat this well. Okay, now we're going to combine our dry, actually I'm gonna put the egg in with our flour in our cocoa because I like the bigger bowl. I'm just gonna drop that in there. Let me get a spatula here. I'll scrape out all the goodies. You know, since I was a little kid, I remember the stories of the presidents and what godly men they were and how there was prayer in the White House and how they did so much for our country because they were not afraid to take a stand and keep standing when everybody else was in opposition to them. And that's something that you don't find. Now everybody's looking for the popular vote or the one that says, oh, I'll do this for you or I'll do that. But I'm just thankful that there are those still who say, you know, they're few and far between, but they are godly people who will indeed stand for what's right and righteousness and holiness. And as I said in the open, you know, we're all, really and truly, we are all part of examples to somebody. I don't care who it is, we're examples to somebody. Okay, we're going to mix this around like so till a batter forms. And then as the batter forms, we're going to shape this into 1-inch balls of batter. It will hold its shape. Okay. And let me take a check over here. Let's take a look and see what's going on in this little pan over here, because we're going to add something else to that. Make sure I have everything in here. I need to add my cup of sugar. I think I missed my cup of sugar. So I'm going to add it now to the batter, okay? Hold on. You know, we're a little discombobulated today because we have a blizzard going on today, and most everybody's leaving to go home, but we're staying here so that you can have these programs. We're working at it. And I appreciate the crew doing that. But we're going to mix this together. There we go. It'll blend in. You know, people say, oh, if I don't do it perfect. Well, guess what? This is the way you find out a new way to do things, because you try it, because maybe you forgot to add an ingredient or whatever. Now, let's take a look over here. We have in this pan some sweetened condensed milk and our chocolate chips. Look how nice that's melting down, beautiful. But that's not enough. That's going to be our icing. That's not quite enough yet. Let me show you what else we're going to add into that. We've taken a jar of maraschino cherries and we've drained them. And now I'm going to add about 4, make sure I get it right, 4 teaspoons. Here we go. 4 teaspoons of the cherry juice right to our icing. 1, 2, 3, 4. And what that will do is add such a dimension of flavor. It's going to be great. We're going to mix that around so you have the chocolate flavor with the taste of cherries included in it. Just like that. Okay. Looks wonderful. Now, if this gets too thick, you can also just reserve the cherry juice, because this is what you'll use to thin this out. Okay, look, that's beautiful. All right, I'm going to take that off. And now, I'm going to roll a couple of these, just like this. Okay. And when you get them rolled, You're going to make them into 1-inch balls, like I said, and put them on a cookie sheet. Don't have to spray it or grease it or anything, but just make it round. And you're going to push your thumb in the middle, like that. Then you're going to add one of these beautiful big cherries right in the middle. And then you're going to take some of this wonderful icing and you're going to cover that cherry with the icing. And then you're going to bake it. Look at this. Does that look awesome? Oh my. Delicious, delicious. You put them in a 350-degree oven, bake them 10 minutes. You don't even have to ice them when you bring them out, the cookies done. We're going to take a break. When we come back, more of our special program honoring our presidents and cherries. We'll be right back.
Do you love watching At Home with Arlene Williams? Then be sure to check out our new YouTube channel. It's filled with classic episodes from over 20 years of At Home, and more videos are added each day. And don't forget to click the subscribe button so you'll never miss another episode of At Home.
All right, welcome back to our special edition of At Home, because we're honoring the presidents by making cherry dishes today. We have our cookies in the oven baking, chocolate-covered cherry cookies. Oh, you'll love them. Second one we're going to do, this was sent in by a friend of our program. She said, every time I make this and I take it to a covered dish, the people always eat it all up and then they ask for the recipe. And it has 4 ingredients. This is the kind of stuff I like. Okay, you take a 9x9 or an 8x8 pan, and she doesn't say to, but we're just going to spray it lightly with just some plain old Pam or some kind of a butter, because we don't want it to stick, okay? Now, you take 1 cup of cherries. This is the canned cherry, like the pie filling. 1 cup only. Don't use the whole thing, just 1 cup. Okay, and we're going to put that in the bottom of this pan. Now, I'm sure you could use other kinds, but since we're doing cherries today, we just thought this would be appropriate. Okay, and she said to spread the cherries over the bottom of the pan. Okay, just like that. Okay, try to do it evenly. And try to get more cherries than that's the syrupy stuff, you know, because that's just thickening of the juice, but you really want lots of cherries. Okay, so we spread that evenly. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is sprinkle, just take a plain cake mix that you get in a box, just like this, and it's a yellow or a white cake mix. And you're going to sprinkle this, believe it or not, over the cherries. You don't mix it, you don't make the cake mix. We're just going to sprinkle this all over top of the cherries. See, I like it already because it's so simple, so easy. No hassle. You think you could do this, Mike?
Absolutely.
Mike can do this. We're teaching all the crew how they can cook and help their families, and yeah, right. We're teaching them so that they can survive and eat themselves when the wife's busy or she's working or something, We have to make it look good and sound good for them, though, because they get testy. But anyway, yeah, pretty soon Mike's going to be an accomplished cook, and he'll be having his own show on another network somewhere, probably. Anyway, we love all the guys that's on the crew. Here we go. Now, we've got the whole cake mix in, dry cake mix. Now, we're going to pour 1/2 cup, which is 1 stick of melted butter, right over the top. And try to do it evenly, just like that. Now you have to know that when this butter gets heated and it cooks down into that wonderful cake mix, it's going to get crunchy. You have to know it's going to get crunchy. Okay? Now, next thing to, what could you put on here that would make it even better? Right, pecans. And you just sprinkle 1/2 cup of pecans over top, and they also roast in the oven while this is baking, of course, and it's so awesome because they get toasted. Nothing better. Nuts taste fine when they come out of the bag or you get them fresh off the tree or whatever, but there's nothing as tasty and delicious as when you make them and you put them in the oven, and just even on a plain cookie sheet, maybe just spray them with some butter or some melted butter over them. Oh my goodness. This goes into a preheated 350-degree oven, which we happen to have ours set at right here. And it's going to go for about 1 hour. There you go. 1 hour. When that comes out, you have the most delicious, and this is called the minister's wife's dessert. I think that's a pretty unusual name for it, but it certainly meets the criteria. Remember my mother, boy, they were always looking for her desserts because she would try to make something special when there was anything going on special at the church. All right, the last one I promised you is a pie. And I want to show you how to make a pie. Very simple, very easy, and no intimidation, okay? You say pie to people and immediately they're in a panic. Oh, I can't make crust, I can't do this. You can get refrigerated crusts. Remember? I tell you, use them. You don't have to impress anybody with, oh, I can make a good crust. If you can, that's great. But if you can't, don't let that stop you from trying to do something like a pie. Okay, in this, let's see, we're going to take this bowl. A little cherry juice in the bottom of that, but I'm just going to wipe that out. And I'm going to take 1 can of, let me see, I'll use a spatula. 1 can of, now this says large can of cherries. There's this size, which is about 20 ounces, but there's also the big one, like I call it the sauerkraut can size, a big one. And we had some left over from our minister's wife's dessert because they didn't call us for a cup. So we're putting it all in this pie to make it really nice and fruity because we like it. We like lots of fruit in our pies. Okay? So we don't just take it out of the can and place it in there. We're going to doctor up those cherries with a little flavoring, and that's what makes something taste homemade. When you're making homemade things, that's what makes it taste homemade, when you doctor it up and give it a little fresh flavor. And that's going to be a little bit of melted butter, pouring that right in there. Okay, and also some almond extract. Almond is, I tell you what, it's one of the best. And you only want a little bit, like maybe 1/4 of a teaspoon. You don't want a lot, because a little bit of this goes a long way. This is strong. This is extract, all right? Now, let's see. Make sure we have everything. Melted butter. We have our almond extract. And now, we're going to pour this one right into our pie crust. And there it goes. Isn't that pretty? I'm glad that it was the cherry tree that got chopped down. Because you know what, I really like cherries, and I think it's just so colorful and beautiful and tasty, and most kids like cherries. Look how nice and full that makes your pie. Very nice. Okay, now we're going to take our other crust, just like this, and this comes in this refrigerated. You know, I told you, it's so easy to do. And you want to make a decorative top to that. You also need that for air vents. First of all, I always cut one in the middle, in the center, and then if I'm in a hurry, I just make some slits, like so. These are called vents so it doesn't cook all over your stove. Lets the steam come out, okay? And I'm going to open it up. We're going to put this on top of that pie, flute the edges. I have one going in the oven for us so you can see it. It's a beautiful pie. And when we come back, we're going to be at the dining room table, and I'm going to show you all the things we made today in honor of our presidents. We'll be right back.
Just go to ctvn.org/at-home to get all the recipes from today's show for free. That's right, no subscriptions. They're available online at no cost, and more are being added each day. So join us at ctvn.org/at-home to get today's recipes now.
Today we're honoring our presidents because they were men of good report. They had good reputations. Not all of them, but the ones that are, that's the ones we honor today. Amen. And our cherry desserts, here's the minister's wife's dessert. This is awesome. Look at the layers, look at the cherries, the nuts. And the only other thing that I would add to that would be just a dollop of whipped cream on top. Oh boy, that is a wonderful, easy to do. And don't double the recipe. If you need a big one, make 2 separate. That's what the lady said, okay? Then we have our cherry pie. And of course, you know, either a big glass of milk or ice cream goes with cherry pie. So today, while it's still warm, there's the cherry pie. Oh, look at that. Flaky crust, yum yum, delicious cherries. And then here's our chocolate covered cherry cookies. These are so awesome. Now remember, we put that icing on them before they went in the oven. So when we brought them out, that's the way they look when they come out. You don't do another thing with them. And these will stay fresh for a couple of days. You also can freeze them, but you have to package them really, really well. Inside there, remember, is a whole cherry in that little groove that you made in the cookies. Just some really interesting, delicious, easy to do cherry recipes for you. And again, I hope you'll give some thought to what we talked about earlier about mentoring. You're a role model for a lot of people. Like my nieces and nephews I showed you earlier, they are so precious and they're treasures. There's Reno and Rihanna, there's Josh and Jake, and there's Corey and Haley. Those are 6 little treasures in my life, and I want to be a good role model to them, and I hope you do. The best role model in the world is the Lord God Almighty, because He never makes a mistake. Till we see you the next time, be sure to join us, because it just wouldn't be the same without you here at home. We'll see you then.
Furnishings provided by Levin Furniture, featuring Lane's Country Living Collection. Food provided by Jordan Banana Company, wholesalers of fresh fruit and vegetables in Trevosburg, Pennsylvania.
Don't forget to click the subscribe button so you'll never miss another episode of At Home. Thank you for watching.
Cornerstone Television wishes to thank all our faithful viewers whose consistent prayers and financial support have made this program possible.